Welcome to Sentient Synchronicities. Tonight we're going to be talking about conspiracy and myth, literally in the middle of nowhere, in the woods, in the mountains in Quebec, by the border, late at night, on some paranoid shit. But why not? Why wouldn't we? This is some cool shit. It's live. Who knows who's going to drop in? I'm hoping Unknown Misery might pop by and, make an unexpected visit. Meanwhile, you never know. Even if there's nobody there, I'm just doing this for fun. I just want to see what's going to happen. So let's do this. Conspiracy and myth. What's a myth? What's the root of a myth? Everybody knows what a conspiracy is. Some people disagree on what's facts and what's fiction. But what's a myth? Some people say it's a lie. Clearly not a proper definition. That's a colonial misunderstanding. It's a conundrum that makes no sense, considering the root of that comes from mythos or mythos in Greek, which means true story, truthful story. So basically, this is a sort of a myth in a sense, because you don't know what the root of what I'm saying is. It's a freestyle. It's off the top of the head. I could be saying anything. There's no credentials for what I'm speaking according to colonial sense. But then indigenously speaking, when I'm manifesting this out of nowhere, off the top of my brain, basically my consciousness is operating in different senses. Different parts of my brain are lighting up, like the Paramhansa, the great swan that comes out when your consciousness is fully lit and at a certain brain activity level. One thing that could spark that up is when you spark that up. So let me spark up a spliff for a second and enjoy my ganja. This has got some Mapacho tobacco in there, which is rainforest tobacco, which is Wah Mapacho Aztec rainforest tobacco, which actually comes from the motherland. There's many motherlands, but that comes from South America. That comes from Central America, technically, actually, I should say, but it's also South American. This one is Aztec, and this is an ancient, thousands and thousands of year old strain of tobacco they call the grandfather of truth. I've mentioned this to some people before, but this relates to myth, because there's truth. There's myth, which is a true story. The grandmother of myth, to me, is marijuana. Now, this is mixed. This is truth and mixed. Truth and myth mixed together. My apologies for the dyslexia. Anyways, but the point being, conspiracy to some people is a lie. To some people is an obvious truth. What's the difference between fact and fiction? Sometimes it's not just a perspective or an opinion. Sometimes it's really a matter of fact that you don't know. For example, some people thinking science is fact that's provable, but it really isn't, because we don't see what the scientists are doing for experiments. So what is a conspiracy? A conspiracy is that what's hidden behind closed doors, but what's very apparent in plain sight. For example, the fact that people are eating children's flesh for pleasure in the factory farm industry, and that all these animals are being raped and tortured. We all know this is happening. Some people would say it's a conspiracy that those are raped and tortured children, but they really are. They're 3 weeks to sometimes a year old. Those are newborn children. That's something nobody would argue about statistically. Pretty crazy shit, right? Yo, what up, Elijah? Peace, brethren. First one to hop in. Yo, this is crazy. You want to hop in and have a discussion about conspiracy and myth? Because, it's a beautiful subject, I think. Very interesting, ponderings. I thought tonight, I was like, maybe I'll just reflect to myself and nobody else will hop in. But this is very interesting. I'm thinking about the root of where myth came from, how conspiracy is something some people disagree about. Some people say it's conspiracy fact. Others are like, fiction. So let's see this. Okay, let's... Brethren, Elijah was hopping. I was talking about how grandfather tobacco is like the grandfather of truth, and grandmother marijuana is like the grandmother of myth. So if you mix truth and myth together and you smoke it up, basically it's like smudging your body and opening.
Okay. So what myths are we talking about?
Any of them, but primordial myths, like from the root of myth. What I was talking about right now is the origin of the word itself, which means a true story. Whereas in colonial, empirical, scientific, rational society, they try to tell us a myth is a lie. But obviously, it's the same thing as white supremacy and trying to deny our own myths and traditions.
Like Medusa?
Yeah, yeah, it was a really good one.
Or I thought it was something that they talked about, like, how the pyramid, and they have the name of the different gods they had up there. And it said,
Yeah,
turns out what that really means is it's like the mind, the body, the spirit, the soul. That's what they were talking about. I was like, and I was like, whoa! I heard somewhere about that. I was like, okay, that makes more sense on how the brain, the medulla, and all the different parts of the brain, and how we use that, and how they named the gods after those things. It was much
Yeah.
broader than the ideas. But yeah, they were very, very
That
highly
makes total,
intelligent.
total sense. I didn't even think about that too, and how basically the serpent that was curled up in the middle of the pharaoh's headdress actually represented the pineal gland.
Yes, yes. So you know about those things. Yeah. And I was like, wow, I barely found out about those things barely this month. And I was like, oh my goodness, that does make sense because they were very highly intelligent people. And they proved this tomb, the pyramids, they're built in a diamond. They're built from the ground up, not from the top down. And I was like, oh my goodness. And the stuff they found out inside of them, it's a mechanism to send messages and stuff. And that's the reason why they had pyramids in certain spots. And that's where they build it and stuff. I was like, oh my goodness, they are really highly intelligent.
Yeah, no, exactly. I wanted to do some shit late night tonight where I'm like, let's do some alien civilizations, ancient civilizations type shit. So this is perfect because we can talk about acoustic levitation. Supposedly, one of the last places that was built with acoustic levitation in the 1940s is called, it's in Florida. It's called Coral Castle.
Oh.
And it was built like using that for much smaller blocks, obviously. But what's very interesting is in Baalbek, Lebanon, there's a place in Lebanon on top of a small mountain, on top of a hill, basically that has thick cedar forests around it, where there's a platform, and now there's a Greek temple that was rebuilt over it. But this platform was posited to be at the place where there used to be a spaceport back in the days in Sumerian times. That could have been like some of the carbon dating on there could be like over 50 to 100,000 years old. So crazy stuff. But on top of that, it came from a quarry down at the base of the mountain. And the biggest megalith that was carved there was almost 1,000 tons. So this is like literally about 100 or 10 times more than the Cheops pyramid's biggest block. So massive, massive like quarry stones that are carved with diamond cut precision and pieced together on a platform that could withstand a rocket ship lifting off. And this used to be a spaceport described in ancient Sumerian myths. They called it a spaceport in Baalbek. It used to be the same. It was the mouth of Baal, but then back then I forget the name, if it was Eridu or Eden. The Garden of Eden. Eden is a Sumerian spaceport back in the days. If you go look in like Sumeriology.
Mm. Yeah, that is quite interesting. So I thought they talk about a lot of things. Like they talk about, oh, there's no such thing as giants, and then they found bone structures of these creatures that look like giants. So I was like,
Listen,
hmm.
even if we look at the smaller version of that in people in every day, I mean, look at the 79ers with 7'9" people that are in there. Tell me those aren't giants. Tell me they don't have the remnants of giant parents. Tell me that if we didn't start having like two giants that were constantly listen, some parents can be like 5 foot tall and the other one's 6 foot, but they have an offspring that's like 7 foot tall. So imagine if two people that are 7 foot have someone that's 9 foot tall. Two people that are 9 foot tall have someone that's 11 foot tall. 4 or 5 generations from now, you could have full-size giants on the face of the earth that would be like 15, 20 foot tall. And people would be like, that's impossible. But genetically, it's possible.
Yeah.
It's an evolutionary quantum leap. So I believe in that back in the days. I mean, why do we even have civilizations and structures that had places that are so big and gateways and thrones that are big enough for giants to sit down? They didn't make that for fun. You know, obviously these people used to exist. I believe in the bones being hidden too. I mean, shit, they hide so much stuff. And think about what we know about deep underground military bases, which is practically nothing. But those ones go down, and if it goes down even deeper, they talk about the Nazis wanting to control Agartha, inner Earth. That was like, you know, I don't know if you believe in that or not, but to me, it took me a long time to believe in that theory. But then I realized, I'm like, listen, if we're able to build deep underground military bases that are like kilometers deep under the earth, you're telling me there aren't doorways that go deeper underground from ancient civilizations that were so advanced they could levitate spaceships? Like,
Yeah. Because they could never forget how they move those rocks to build the pyramids. They said these are 2-ton rocks, and we're like little ants compared to them. But they moved those rocks, but they never found the equipment they moved them with.
exactly. This is what I meant. The Baalbek platform. No, you're talking 2 tons is already tough, extremely tough to move with diamond cut precision and piece together,
Mm-hmm.
especially back then. with what they tell us these civilizations didn't have. Even with our technology, we can't do that. But imagine 1,000-ton block. How do you move that up a hill thickly populated with trees and then put it in a perfect platform where you can't even slip a piece of paper in between the two blocks? How is that possible?
Yeah.
Tell me aliens didn't exist. I'm like, yo, obviously they must have had all kinds of super advanced techniques we don't even have access to.
Exactly. And I also found another thing, for humans, for our illnesses, it all begins in our gut. If we have a good, clean gut, our health we can go on for a long, long time. They don't talk about that.
Straight up, yo, we could be immortal beings. That's fact. Science of immortality. Because Italism, you're African, so you get it. From the diaspora, I don't want to assume your background, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you get it. Because, like, we were meant to be immortal beings. We're meant to age a lot slower than we actually do, but because of the amount of suffering in the world, it causes us accelerated aging because of worry, stress, colonialism, colonization, displacement, genocide on a daily basis happening around the world, wars, famine, like depopulation, rape, abuse. All this conscious awareness we have is making us age a lot faster than we usually would. In a golden age, we'd be living hundreds of thousands of years. Literally, we have that potential.
I think so too. It's just that most people that we are killing ourselves. Like the food that we're eating, the chemicals and the stuff that they're putting in, the man-made sugars and stuff. That stuff gives us cancer later on. All that stuff that we're taking in now, eating all this plastic that they put plastic in our water, plastic in our pipes, plastic in everything. If we
Yeah.
get too much of that stuff, it kills the body, and we don't realize that's not going to affect us.
I mean, shit, they're putting milk in salt and vinegar chips now. Why the fuck would they do that? Why do they put milk powder in chips with salt and vinegar in them? Since when? Why is there 5 ingredients, including may contain shellfish and hazelnuts and eggs in my fucking fruits? You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. All this shit that they're putting in there, they're like, don't worry, it doesn't harm you. Oh, there's a little bit of some neurotoxins in there. There's a little bit of like heavy metals and poisons and this thing, but they're not in dosages that should affect the human body. We have no long-term research to prove this, but don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah, just like
We approved it.
that COVID shot. They didn't know what we would sign our lives away taking that shot, not knowing what was putting into our bodies. And it's like, what? But they won't put it in their children's bodies. A lot of CEOs, they ran to another country when they found out that was going to happen. And like, that makes you question.
Oh yeah, and some of the live shows, I remember one of them, they even showed up, one of the shows exposed one of the live shows where a famous politician pretended to take the shot. And they showed in the close-up on the shot that the needle cap wasn't even off. They just pretended to jab them.
Yeah.
So people are just good at putting on an act. They're like, oh yeah, or some people were like, I took the shot, but they never did. They just went online and endorsed it.
Yeah. And they went around all these children, like, and then the new vaccination shot for the children. A lot of these kids are getting autism after the fact, and it's like, wait 1 minute, hold up.
Then De Niro gets censored when he puts a movie out on his autistic youth and autism and vaccines, and he gets completely censored by Hollywood.
Yeah.
Crazy shit. And it's crazy because I can say that I suffer from so-called mental disorders. I'm diagnosed as bipolar, seasonal affective disorder, bipolar type 2, schizoaffective disorder. I'm diagnosed with the same illnesses, and I have the same life story background and parents' backgrounds as Legion in the X-Men, the son of Professor X. It's crazy shit. And that guy has the same illnesses as me, and I ended up taking on that persona as a hip-hop artist and making music under that name. And I love the idea that Legion represents the idea of the quintessential person that wakes up to the horror of society in a psychotic state, but has the potential to be superhuman. It's like a beautiful story in a sense because he doesn't know the extent of his power, and he never knows whether he's delusionally imagining things or if there's a conspiracy to kill him and if the government's against him. And I feel like, I just ended up coming out of high security for 6 months on a 3-year sentence for attempted murder on 3 police officers that I offered a meal and coffee and tea to. But they framed me for attempted murder with machetes I didn't even have in my house at the time. Crazy ass shit. So I believe in conspiracies because I'm like, but trying to explain that to you when you don't know me and you're just seeing a blurred screen with black and white background and you can barely see me. You've seen me before, but you know what I mean? Anybody could, like, this guy could be making up a story. I don't know what he's talking about. That's a conspiracy. But this is fun because that's what the show is about. I'm telling the entire truth. I'll burn in infinite hells if I'm lying. Literally.
Yeah,
Burn in
true.
infinite hells if I'm lying. Pick
Yeah.
a technical. And I'd be like, yo, I was on a high security prison psych ward for 6 months with no sunlight. They locked me up and framed me for an attempted murder I never committed. And Amnesty International members got me out of there. Literally. Like, they had phone calls from around the world from people calling, and they ended up dropping the charges after 6 months, releasing me, but they kept the injections. So they injected me during COVID, but not with the vaccine, with antipsychotics under a special provision which allowed them to breach my human rights under Code White, saying that I was violent because I refused to accept their injections. So they called me violent and forced them onto me.
Yeah. It's a trip how all this is going on. It's like they make the media about Diddy, and there's other things that's going on that they're trying to keep our attention distracted from. And I'm like, wait 1 minute.
Straight up.
What are they hiding?
Yeah, he's the scapegoat for the whole industry. I'm not sad at all. I'm like, yo, take your full sentence. No fucking problem. We should kill him in there. I hope he gets stabbed to death. But like, the thing is, everybody else is guilty too. I don't know why they're saying all these people are like, oh, witnesses and everything. I'm like, what the fuck were you doing at that house, and why didn't you do something? Why the fuck was Wu-Tang Clan talking about being at a Puff Daddy party and not opening doors and not wanting to see what was going on, and then opening the wrong doors and regretting they did that? I'm like, shouldn't you be banging on them? Like, isn't Wu-Tang Clan about banging on that and protecting the children?
The industry is crazy. That industry is crazy. Because you find out all the stuff that's really coming out, like all this stuff is coming out on dirt that's been going on for decades, is finally coming to the surface.
Yeah, legit. Oh, there was even videos of like Will Smith being involved in that, Jada Pinkett Smith selling Jaden Smith to the Illuminati. I'm like, holy shit, everything's coming out now. This is the end of the world, literally. We're living in times according to all the different spiritual traditions across the world. We're living in the age of 80 sins. Factory farming is the new genocide of this generation. You know, it's insane. Plus the wars and the genocides going on a human level. So this world is like in a whirlwind of genocide and torture and war and massacre and capitalism, imperialism, but it's all swirling into nothingness. Everything's collapsing. So we're at the edge, at the cusp of a great shift towards the Venus Project. And that's another myth and conspiracy that some people don't believe in. But I'm like, give it another 10 years of revolution and transition. This world's going to be crazy different.
Yeah, they already know that 'cause people are leaving the states, trying to live in a better places that they will survive. By like, nah. As long as you have stuff going on, these corrupt people in there and doing these corrupted things, it's only going to get worse until it finally caps off.
Here's another crazy conspiracy fact and something that some people would call a myth because you don't know me actually in person.
Okay.
But I live completely off grid. I have no papers, no identities, no nothing. Like literally, I have no IDs, no driver's license, no health card, no birth certificate. And I own about $10 million worth of real estate, but I'm a free man. So I sit here, I can tell you this. Nobody, people that know me would believe that. But I'm like about to go get another 200 acres of land right around the block from here, like 40 kilometers down the road. And another farm and another spot. I've got 3 other pieces of land, phonic reserves under my name, including 3 other houses. But I have no ID, no anything. But people know who I am, and I'm a fucking Canadian resident and citizen, so they can't say shit to me. I just tell them I lost every single time. And I tell them I don't have any desire to make any new ones. And they don't know what to say to me because they can't say I'm an illegal immigrant. They know who I am. And they keep
Yeah.
forced injections, so they have to come check on me. And they can't even ask me for ID because I don't legally have any. So it's a funny
Wow.
connection, but I live a perfect life other than the injections because I live on a farm off grid, 118 acres here. I have another 168 acres by the sea. I'm copying another 200 acres over there. I have an acre without near Montreal that I bought from my mom. I live a perfect life. I live a dream life like some of the superstars in Hollywood do without any of the drama, minus the injections. I get framed for all kinds of shit on a regular basis, but I make all kinds of music. I live my life 24/7. I could do lives 24/7 if I wanted to do nothing else, but yeah, there's not really a lot of point. It get repetitive after a while, but yo, peace to Geechee girl. Peace I don't. Yo, what up, brethren? Yo, that's a brethren right there. That's a martial arts trained supernatural paramilitary brethren from France who does like circus training to does like crazy you know, all kinds
Bonjour.
of curricular work and activities. That dude, the brethren, is solid.
You know, Rax, 7, Iraq Z7Y.
No, but looks like a dope person too. That's really cool. Yo, there's so many people that come in, come out. Yo, please hop into the conversation if you want to. This is a wonderful conversation. I'm like really loving this because we're talking about everything, trying to deconstruct what conspiracy and myth is, and trying to prove that at the end of the day, there's no more proof. I've lived what I've lived and I know this, but there's no more proof of what I'm saying to you, objectively speaking, than any of the science we're told is truthful or factual that we don't have proof for directly in front of our eyes. We're
Yeah.
told that we should accept everything that colonialism tells us as science, but they stole that shit and plagiarized it badly from our own cultures, and they don't even give proper credit for it.
No.
Yeah, so crazy ass shit, you know? But we live this. Now we're like, we've used our own, like, you know, back in the days, it was like we had to struggle to learn languages that were foreign to us, that were stupid as fuck. Now we're excelling in that and beating them at their own games. We have better degrees than they do, better qualifications, better use of everything. So we're like, yo, fuck you. We mastered your languages. We remember our own. We know our own traditions. Plus, we know your sciences too. They're pretty easy to figure out once you know they got plagiarized from the original source. So they're crumbling and falling apart everywhere. Who the fuck ever believes that white people are superior now?
Yeah, we got more people coming in. Nice. Like you
Yo,
said, come join the live. I would love
yeah,
to hear you guys' take on things.
please. Yo, yeah, exactly. Truth will be told. Exactly. This is the facts because we're on a like very independent, low number of live stream, but we're still getting a couple hundreds of like plays a week. That's still dope as shit. That's the size of a huge university class every week. You know, that's crazy.
Oh
Like it
yeah.
might be like there's 4 people live here listening right now, plus you and me, or 5 now, 6. Shit, that's just crazy. Wow. So this is beautiful. Thank you so much to everyone who's in it. Please hop in the conversation. We got 4 spaces, so like it'd be beautiful to have other people hopping in. But yeah, this is what's crazy. You're not gonna hear this stuff live on TV. You're not gonna hear this stuff like somewhere else. And I might just be. I'm not ranting like David Icke or like somebody else. In respect to like some of the people that drop truth regardless. But you know what I mean. I don't know
Yeah.
any of these people, and a lot of them are like angry white guys that are talking about conspiracy facts that they don't own the copyright to. They're not leaking truths that got told to them by a great revelatory source. Usually they're taking that from other cultures and they're stealing that information, saying they have the secret of the ages, like the book The Secret. Sorry, I've been smoking too much chronic, but like, speaking of which, I should
I
have.
was looking earlier today too.
Oh, that's bomb. But that's life. Yeah, no, I feel like the plant teacher totems. There's another conspiracy. People thinking that plants don't have spirits. There's a plant teacher spirit. And to me, this is why they call Mapacho, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, the grandfather of truth. And then marijuana to me is like the grandmother of myth. It's like, yo, these plants have a soul, they have an essence. And they can teach you the secrets of photosynthesis, of meditation, transmutation principles. They can teach you all kinds of super advanced chakra principles for the human body to realign itself. They can cure you from 3,000 different types of diseases, panacea. But so many people are like going to neo-Nazi drugstores run by capitalist fucks that don't give a fuck and have a cartel on a drug dealing enterprise. And they think that those are medicines. I'm like, yo, those are Nazi invented pharmaceuticals. Those are chemically compounded drugs.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, we got another request. 60. Yo, let's do it. That's that's a Hebraic brethren from the Middle Eastern brethren. He's been hopping in a couple different times. Yo, what up?
Okay.
Hey,
Hey, what up?
brother. Oh, hair's all messed up, but that's how it go, you know?
Yo,
Every time I pop on, I get censored. So I just figured everybody who's listening, thank you guys for being here live, because this is probably the only time it's going to
yo,
get aired. Because I
who
try
knows?
and keep stuff in parables.
Let's hope this one doesn't mysteriously drop. We lost 6 lives. This is facts. To anyone who's listening, you would know. We lost 6 lives, one of which with Elder Beatmaster was like 4 hours long. We
Oh,
lost like 2 or 3
amazing.
4 hour long lives with like 100 people in them. Literally just wiped out, and it dropped as soon as I started saying, I'm gonna say it again just for the fuck of it. But as soon as I said fuck Meta, fuck Zuckerberg in a freestyle, it went chop. Thank you for listening. I was like, click, click, save, no save button, nothing. Gone.
Yeah.
These guys
Oh,
always
there,
play
there,
the
We're
same
using
games,
different
there,
bro.
platforms. That's why.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, it same tricks, bro. But at the end of the day, like you were talking about Mother Mary. At the end of the day, however you want to call it, the substance is holy. People use it in ways where it takes you to a parallel dimension, right?
Yeah.
Where it takes you to a completely different alternate universe. And I was in this realm, but I was seeing it through a lens of like you know how in a video game you have a graphical user interface? I had an overlay on my reality,
You know,
and I was playing a spiritual travel
happened to
game.
me once when I was driving. True story. I wasn't even high or drunk or anything. I was sober, but my brain was so hyperactive that I saw screens popping up in holographic depictions on the front of my windshield while I was on autopilot, literally on cruise control, driving on the highway late at night. And I had been driving like for like 20 hours straight, but I wasn't tired. And I'm like, I start hallucinating future pop-ups like I was on a spaceship in a multi-dimensional screen. And there's like students' faces popping up, talking to me in real time, telling me I'm breaking world records, and I've been driving for days. And I'm like, I could literally see clear, and I could like literally drive through and see clearly holographically through the pop-up screens, but it was in like holographic three-dimensional projection. This was a real vision I had live while I was driving, and it was perfectly safe. It was like training me for future spaceship pilot purposes or some shit. It was crazy. Like I've had those kind of experiences in my life. I've done yoga while I was driving, and it was safer for me to do that than to actually not, because my blood circulation was being affected from the position I was in for a long time. So doing crane pulls while I'm driving and driving with one foot is safer for me, and then switching it up than actually not doing anything,
Do
which
you
is crazy.
do you drive without shoes or do you drive barefoot? Because my cousin he
Yeah,
drives
barefoot.
barefoot.
I drive barefoot. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
I
know how,
drive it fun
and I know
when I drive.
I know how to drive with my knees.
It's like, bro, if you're eating any kind of falafel or anything, like you better have to be able to drive with your knees.
Exactly. That's
Just
fact.
saying, like, I'm sorry, that's standard practice. Like where
Bro,
I'm
back when
from
I
in
was in
Argentina.
true story. I drove 150 on the highway, drove with my knees on cruise control at 150 while I was rolling a joint in one hand and talking to my girlfriend on the other on the phone.
I've been
Like
on too much chronic,
nuts.
bro, but that shit's crazy.
I was like a daredevil, literally. The amount of times I crashed cars and survived insane crashes. I have pictures to prove it too. And people that followed my Facebook from back in the days on my Kalki Facebook will remember. You would be like, yo, like I always had a new car crash pictures and like stories and like CA rescues in the middle of a snowstorm. And I'm like, yo, I almost crashed into a lake. Like I slammed my SUV into the side of a fence. If the fence wasn't there, I would have slammed into a lake, in a frozen lake, and like drowned to death. Like all kinds of shit that's happened in my life. Flipped and crashed a car at 100 kilometers an hour in the middle of minus 35 when I was cold training, barefoot in a t-shirt. Came out of a broken, collapsed window, upside down in the middle of nowhere at 6 in the morning at minus 35, barefoot in a turban. People in the local village thought I had escaped from a prison and stolen a police car. Craziest stories in my life. I felt like an X-Men. I was like, yo, this is the beginning of my supernatural life.
That's
Nathan,
why
over
it's
here, he's talking
different.
about we should grow our own food. I agree with that because our
Yeah.
vegetables and stuff they go to the market and they have that white powder on them, and they said that white powder supposed to make it ripen faster because they're plucking it before it needs to ripen. Like that's not healthy.
No.
That's going to give us cancer. That's going to kill us.
Like
Oh,
what you doing, guys?
my
You
brethren
you,
thought
you passing off
this.
neo-Nazi magic as like something that's gonna be good for us, like just like they did with that thing with the babies in the '60s. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? That made them all deformed and shit. Like, nah, I ain't buying your bullshit.
Oh, yeah, and
Not
then
this
all
time, not last time.
chemicals since like the fucking 30s, 40s, 50s, Agent Orange, all the other shit, like, glyphosate now. Like the oats, Quaker oats got recalled for glyphosate. There's so many fucking chemicals and poisons. All of those were invented by Nazis, and they don't even tell us that because nobody would go to the drugstore if we knew those were Nazi poisons. You know what I mean? They just
Obviously,
recode and ban the shit. Yo, toxic. If you
Bayer,
have been brethren,
GSK, Moderna. Who are they funded by?
who?
Right? Just
Exactly.
GSK, Bayer, Moderna. I'm just saying.
And who funded
Like,
the Nazis back in the days? The world bankers. Who
correct.
funds big pharma? The world bankers. You know, it's pretty
Exactly.
simple shit, pretty simple logic. Who funds Israel now? Who funds the U.S. now? The world bankers. Who runs the fucking world?
U.S. corporate, right?
So
Yeah,
it's
because there's the
like,
U.S. on the soil, and then there's the U.S. corporate, right? We got to make that distinction. There's the U.S. nationals, and then there's the U.S. 14th Amendment
yeah.
citizens,
So
right? The same way there's the Canadian Indigenous or Canadian on the land, Canadian national, and Canadian citizen.
this is where people fall into racist stereotypes by confusing nationalism, like the government, with the people. As soon as you start
Exactly.
assuming that just because somebody's living in a terrorist state or in a dictatorship that they're guilty or evil, you're like, you're fucked to
No,
death.
no, man.
No, you don't realize these people are living in suffering because of the byproducts of colonialism.
Yeah.
Colonialism is the reason that so-called third world nations exist. Back in those days, those were some of the richest countries in the world and the most flourishing empires.
And now they're being destabilized on purpose because it's convenient for the petrodollar, which is what the U.S. economy runs on. We used to have more tram lines than Europe in Canada. I know Toronto had 70 tram lines
Yeah.
just running up and down all around, and
And we
we
used to have
burned that down
electricity
to the
on
ground in
everything.
1912
Yeah, and that
because
was
Ford Motor
electrician.
Company.
Yo, the first Ford Model T was built out of hemp and ran on hemp oil, supposedly. Tesla, if Tesla had won with Westinghouse, this isn't even conspiracy. If Tesla had won with Westinghouse, we'd have free energy everywhere.
Huh. But just magically his funding just got pulled and his research was confiscated.
Yeah.
And I have a loose blood marriage relationship or potential blood relationship to him. So that's why I always get censored, bro.
And then they
Like they
murdered
really don't like what I
Bruce
say.
Lee. They murdered Bruce Lee. They murdered Brandon Lee. Can you imagine if Bruce Lee was like responsible for teaching martial arts in all the high schools across the planet? Like, let's say
Yeah.
he opened a program for youth to do that. There'd be no more youth abuse. People would turn into like superheroes. People would be ninjas in one generation. He would teach like touch of death to like 5-year-olds. Shaolin monks would be like training like crazy. You'd see, I know a youth right around the corner from one of my best friends. He's already doing like triple 720 flips with like a slam on the ground, and he's 4 years old. Like, he does that shit on the trampoline, and he does like MMA takedowns, and he knows how to do that shit at 4 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah.
He knows how to hunt and fish.
Crazy, brother.
Like the next generation can be so crazy, but like they're raised in neo-residential, neo-colonial spaces that teach them practically nothing functional about social, adaptation and functionality.
That's why I want to get out to where you're at, bro. That's why I want to figure out what really is indigenous life. What's it like? Am I up for it? Right? Like, can I actually sustain myself, or am I so tied to a society that I need to progressively transition?
No,
This stuff isn't easy, right? Like,
you can adapt to both. I go back to the city sometimes, but the way I look at it, I look at the life. I invert practically everything I've been taught in society. We need to decolonize ourselves and unlearn rather than learn more. Because once you have spyware and malware that you're infected with by colonial societies, it's like having a computer that's overclocking, doesn't have the proper fan. You're not slowing down. You're thinking too much because there's too many applications opened up, too many windows popping everywhere. There's like thoughts that you can't control. And that's from advertising and subliminal messaging, neo-Nazi frequencies, chakra disruption, slave labor, all kinds of shit, plus actual problems that we're going through on a daily basis personally. There's all kinds of different variables and factors. So it's crazy ass shit. But then you have to deal with all of that. On top of that, that's like why you have to change your operating system. You start challenging the basic tenets of what the society's been teaching us in educational systems, especially higher ones or even lower ones that are worse in that sense, but free. And then you realize everything they charge money for is the only way they're going to tell you even little bits and pieces of the truth. Everything that's free is total propaganda, practically, anyways. So yeah, yo,
yeah,
BTI, peace, brethren. Yo, hop up if you want to. That's another brethren.
Yeah.
Yo,
yeah. I'll hop off anytime if you need me to make space. Just let me know, brother.
Yeah.
this is a great conversation. I feel like this is, like I said, the kind of stuff you'll never hear on any show. Even the conspiracy shows usually are run by old ranting white guys that don't necessarily know what the fuck they're talking about. And then they're complaining about how hormones and frogs are making people turn transsexual and they're not making sense. Like, you're like, yo, what the fuck are you talking about?
Like, buddy, get your story straight. Like, first you're talking about like some mass murder, and then it's frogs, and then it's the water. Like, at least stick to one topic. If you're gonna pick a rant about one thing.
Yeah, no, legit, right? Like, me and Unknown Misery were talking last night from Babylon Warchild. It was an amazing live. Like, seriously, that dude is a living legend. RBG General. Like, B10 died to same type of shit. Like, a lot of people, toxic phobia, same thing in South Africa. You know, and it's crazy ass shit because we're having this conversation and he's like, he told me basically when a colonizer tells him some fucked up shit, like somebody tells him some racist shit or something like that, he's like, you must have been breastfed with hot dog water. That's a funny ass joke right there.
No, he did not.
Right? Somebody says something like what they say that's racist or like totally displaced or like bigoted or some shit. I'm like, I feel
Gotta pop
sorry
it,
for
yeah.
you. You must have been breastfed with hot dog water. You have these misconceptions. It's like, you know, people like Donald Trump supposedly went out and said that if people voted for Kamala Harris, Haitians were going to eat their pets. Like, what the fuck? What do you mean? So me and Mizzo were joking last night. I was like, oh yeah, of course. You know, be careful because we're going to go eat your pets. That's what we do as immigrants. Like, what?
Yeah,
Who
I'm
the
a
fuck up with those
Latino.
the
Just
presidential candidate?
stirring up that golden retriever soup, bro. That's all we do. Yeah, we don't want jobs because they're taken up by the temporary foreign workers, but we definitely do want to stir up some dog soup.
And how
We don't find it
they
atrocious
say,
that it's eating flesh or anything, or that it's murder or
how are we
anything.
stealing all their jobs if we're lazy and unintelligent and they're superior to us? How does that make sense?
LMIAs, bro. Oh, it's such a scam. If I actually expose this right now, we're definitely getting banned. But you know about LMIAs and all that stuff, right?
Well, what?
Low market indication assessment or something like that.
No.
What they do is a business will issue a job, and essentially they will say we need to prove that there's no Canadian qualified, so they'll post it on some random ass job board and on Indeed. They'll take like whatever applications, they'll disqualify everyone, put crazy salary requirements, put like a master's degree on like managing a restaurant, bro. And then some guy from India will bribe, literally bribe. I'm not even kidding. They talk openly about bribing officials and brokers, as they call them, for these LMIAs, and they have to pay back a certain percentage of the salary, so they're in perpetual debt because they have to do their student certifications here. They have to go ahead and pay back the LMIA debt, and they have to pay their employer a certain percentage back of their salary
Well,
cash.
that
So
sounds
they're
exactly
not
like
making money,
this thing.
and we're not getting jobs.
That sounds
That's
exactly
fucked.
like what we have to do in the education system. It's like if you're lucky enough to get a PhD one day or a master's, you might get a job where you can pay for a mortgage, which is a gauge of death in French, mort gage, a
Where?
gauge of
Well,
yourself
guys, a
for the
grip,
rest
vice
of your
grip.
life. And then you're gonna have you know, car payments, taxes, bills. The next thing you know, you'll be lucky if you manage to even save up enough. So how the fuck did I end up living under poverty level and having to manage 500 acres of land under my name? I'm like, I don't even know, but I was smart as fuck with my investments. And I'm not gonna lie, I did hustle here and there, but never did chemical drugs, no anything. Always just natural marijuana. That's the only thing I ever hustled. That allowed me to flip my first house and make some money off of that, and then flip that again and flip it again. And now that it's legal, I can say that I got prosecuted, I served my time, I'm
Hey,
good.
Scarecrow
You know,
King. You have a guy in here from Sweden. He's talking about the country of Sweden and what's going on there.
yo, yeah, Sweden, but B10 dies actually from Zimbabwe and Sweden.
Oh, oh, so that's the guy. Oh, now I know your OGs.
Yo, we were killing it the other day on his live. I did a
I
crazy
just missed that from work,
hour
bro. Oh, my work schedule's
bro.
fucked.
He's saying we sending weapons and shit to poor countries and they end up with shit like me in the country. Yeah. No, yo, you're right. It's like, for example, some people don't even know General Electric that manufactures stoves and fridges. They manufacture weapons of war too. So, and
That's
that's the main
surprised.
company that Edison represented that was battling against Nikola Tesla. So it's all linked together.
Yeah.
Like, for example, legalization of marijuana happened through the Federal Narcotics Bureau, which is the ancestor of the FBI in 1937, which was run by Henry Anslinger. And the guy he allied up with to illegalize marijuana is none other than Samuel DuPont, who owns DuPont Textiles that manufactures all the synthetic fabrics we now know, including all the Army's shit and all the Navy's shit and all the Air Force's shit. So you can imagine what those contracts are like in a place like the US already, and then imagine across the globe because they
And DuPont
manufacture that.
Chemicals. We can't leave them out of there because
Chemicals, you're right, those ones too. Everything else, the conglomerates, one of the 13 families. So one of the richest families in the world
right.
illegalizes marijuana and hemp at the same time without telling the hemp farmers, which was the crop of the next century that never breaks down and never wears down and is entirely natural and super breathable. And it's a natural fiber you can use for everything from building to all the other shit. They illegalize that, use toxic building
You
materials, plastics, all kinds of
can
other
eat it, bro.
shit,
You can
non-breathable.
even eat it.
And the next thing you know, they have a cartel on everything, and they illegalize jazz singers and every speakeasy and all the other shit that was going on. And then they legalize alcohol after the prohibition. And the next thing you know, alcohol is being commercially poisoned too with byproducts and all kinds of other shit. And then they're giving us bootleg alcohol instead of the bootleg that was natural and pure from back in the days that they called moonshine or other shit. You know, every standard's been reversed. And they told us in the last days that every truth would be inverted right before our eyes and that the truth would be right in front of our eyes and the inversion would be apparent. But people, it's almost like they see the inversion and they're like, that's an inversion. And they flip it back around. And the next thing you know, good is evil and evil is good again.
Some crazy shit, bro. People just make rationalization on rationalization to keep living their life the way they do, right? But yeah, I just realized I had to make a life change. It's just that was my realization at 21 years old, turning almost 22, right? Like it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 25, you can be 35, you can be 55, you can be 85.
Yep.
If you find some truth and you find that it doesn't align with your morals, habits, and values, you need to switch something. That's that's my experience, and that's just how it is. It's just like somebody lays it down to you in a way that makes sense, anecdotally, emotionally, and statistically, and it's just difficult to like protest somebody that has such a logical approach. Like if you're coming at me emotionally, I get it, ad hominem, like attacking me, but. Uh, oh, by the way, Jason, don't apologize. We love hearing what you got to say, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
no joke.
yeah,
No joke.
the story was a homeless girl and she's born and raised in America and she ate that dog because she was damn, that's crazy. Yeah, because there are Haitian immigrants coming in and they have no idea what kind of jobs they're gonna get, what kind of like half the town becomes Haitian and now they have double the population that they did before, but not more jobs, right? So it's like what the fuck? They're just flooding it so they can swing the states, right?
Mm-hmm.
All for elections, all just to fake all the bullshit. Because it's 6 states and it's maybe 20,000 votes that they need to swing.
Yeah.
It's really not that much. Like people talk about it like it's a big deal.
About this New World Order shit, we got to be careful because he said if you don't have a strong will, those people will keep pressing you for their beliefs, so you follow them. This is what New World Order does. They'll attack you psychically, physically. They'll send you and harass you with spam mails, messages on Facebook. I think we all dealt with those messages at one point. Everybody's kind of been familiar, I think, at least, and everybody that listens can relate to getting a random message that says, welcome to the Illuminati. Just press yes to join this brotherhood and you'll have millions of dollars and all the money in the world and the women and everything. You know, I got about like 50 of those messages in my life, if not more. And people are like, oh, those is just spam message. I'm like, no, that's a subliminal influence. You know how many people will type yes there just because? Then you're selling your soul, literally, in a contract on Facebook, which is liable and watched over by the CIA and has all kinds of regulations and terms and conditions that nobody even knows or reads about and agrees to anyways. So you can imagine what typing yes on Facebook or somewhere else to like millions of dollars and all the money in the world and joining the Illuminati would do. Most people would actually sell out for a price. And it's sad to say that, but statistically it's true. You know what I mean?
80% I think, or more, 85%, 90% would sell out.
And the
Yeah. 10%
Colorado,
would be like, at any cost, I will oppose the system because it's simply immoral. The Pareto principle, I think, has some distribution there,
like
right? I think 80-20 would be valuable, but I think it might be skewed even higher
obviously
than the
we're not
Pareto.
talking about people that are living traditionally, people that are indigenously living, because those people they'd be like, you know, fuck off. You know, we have our community, we're good. But in the first world conditions, in the colonial state that we're in, most people that you give an option to make money to do something dubious. I mean, people do that every day. They go work at McDonald's and it supports rape and torture and genocide and destruction of the Amazon. And they're like, fuck, it's my job. I'm sorry. You know, that's just what I do. So,
They don't even think about it like that, though, bro. They're just like, I'm just serving burgers, bro.
no, I
They
get
don't
it.
even
But
think it's that
if,
deep. They can't even
willing to do,
conceptualize it
if
sometimes.
people are willing to do that for a minimum wage salary, imagine what people would do if you offer them $1 million to go run a FEMA camp. Holy shit. A lot of people would pick the job. You know, they'd be like, well, okay. I mean, I don't know. It's my job. I'm just getting paid by the government. That's what most people use as an excuse. They're like, I'm putting money on the table. I'm putting food on the table. I'm providing for my family. But at what cost? And who's suffering? And what are you putting on the table? Is that slave labor? Does it come from another country? Does it have an import carbon footprint? Is it a water footprint? Is it an environmental footprint? Is it good for you? Does it have a cancer-causing substance? Is it made in plastic? Is it going to biodegrade? Are your kids going to get materialistic from having that? Is it a Christmas gift? Are you religious? Are you brainwashing people? Like, fuck, there's so many variables, you know?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Christmas, again, is a pagan holiday. They had to adapt the Christian myth to fit the pagan holiday because if not, people weren't going to accept the rejection of Saturnalia. So they switched it to one day instead of 6 days, bro. Like, if anyone knows their history, come on.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that's
snaps to that. You got to give respect to the guys who did it. They were fucking brilliant. They knew what they were saying because they were spinning on it and they were just going on and they're just like, fine, you know what? He was born on this day when they have no clue when the hell he was born. But he was born on this day. You guys happy yet?
oh yeah, that's nuts. If you look at what Saturnalia represents, it's so funny because it's the anachronistic day in the whole days of the week that makes no sense. The rest of them are all Viking gods and goddesses and like
Right.
ancient pagan depictions. Then suddenly you've got Saturn mixed in there, and you're like, what the fuck is Saturn's day? Why do we have Saturn day? Everything else is like Moon Day. That's fine. I get it. That's the moon goddess. That's wonderful. Moon Day. Then you've got Tears Day, Tuesday. Then you've got, so that's Tyr, like I forget which god that is. It was one of the Nordic gods. So I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know? And you've got Woden's Day. So Odin, that's cool too. That's a warrior god. That's Valhalla shit. That's cool. Okay. Wednesday. Then Thor's Day. That's cool. Thor's pretty badass. That's an Avenger. And then you got Frida's Day, Friday. And then you've got Saturn's Day. Why the fuck is a Roman god about orgies and raping children popped into there all of a sudden? Then, like you said, they say the Savior's born on that day. Weird. And they're like, and then they talk about, and then you've got the Sunday. Okay, Sunday worship, no problem. That's Christ. That's Yeshua. That's the Son. Okay, good. But everything else works.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do we have Saturn's Day? Because they want to slip in some sick shit in there, just like they put vinegar chips, just like they put byproducts in alcohol. They'll put like some fucking melted horse hooves and fucking tasty little cherry looking things for children. You know, they'll put melted pork gelatin in there, all kinds of other shit, make it flavor, taste like candy, taste like natural fruit, but it's gelatin with artificial flavor that's made from byproducts and Nazi chemicals. And you're like, what the fuck is this society?
Bro, shit, making me want to puke with all the alcohol I've drinking in my life, and I didn't drink. Like, I've drinking very little for somebody my age,
And it's
right? So,
not even the worst part because alcohol is just small amounts of byproducts. Sometimes fish scale to filter out the beer or the cider or something. But if you think about it, go look on barnivore.com. You'll find all the vegan alcohol, certified pure alcohol that's organic, vegan, natural. You know what's funny? Colt 45 is one of the vegan certified OG drinks from back in the days that every gangster used to drink. Colt 45 is actually vegan.
Oh.
And I grew up on that shit. I still drink them once in a while
Oh
because they're
shit!
still $4.
How much is it now?
$4 for fucking almost a liter of Colt 45. It's barely changed over the years. Inflation, I'm like, I got to give props to that company. Colt 45 is the shit because they're vegan and they barely inflated over 20 years. Still the same shit. Back when I was a teenager, not even a teenager, I was 10 years old. I used to steal Colt 45s. They used to be $3 and 45 cents. Now they're $4, like 25, 30 years later.
This is on the red though, right?
No, it's not on the res. I wish. I didn't grow up on the res. I wish I grew up on the res. In some ways, it depends where, obviously. But like I would have. I grew up in cities, like big cities. I was unlucky that way. My mom and my dad grew up on reses, but I didn't.
Oh.
Right. I see. So they wanted to give you a different experience, but in that sense, they derailed you from your roots. My parents did the
Yeah,
exact same thing from Argentina to Canada. Yeah.
yeah. They never taught me my native languages either. But the funny thing is, I learned colonial languages so well, I flipped it against the oppressors. Like I ended up at residential school. That's another conspiracy theory. Some people would be like, "Shut up! You're not like an old person that survived residential school." I did. I went to a residential school that got shut down in the mid '90s. But most people wouldn't believe that if they saw me. They'd be like, "You're not old enough to be a residential school survivor." But I am. They called me a child of the devil. They strapped me on my left hand. They told me a bunch of shit. Told me I couldn't write with it. Told me I was a child of the devil. They told me indigenous people. They forced us to go. We were eating like raped and tortured byproducts and children in the basement. We were playing around on the bones of dead bodies in the backyard, and I was right at the edge of downtown Quebec in a fucking prison complex that was like militarized and was like locked us up in a giant yard that had like fucking 50-foot walls with cannons on top. And that's where Quebec used to defend and fight wars against indigenous people. So that was my childhood. I went to a residential school. That's some fucked up
Fuck
shit. You
shit.
know what I wouldn't say that.
Fuck shit, brother. Respects for like you've been a survivor all your life, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I've been a warrior too, brethren. I practice black magic. I practice martial arts. At that school, I got picked on by two bullies in grade 5 that were the starting quarterbacks of the football team. This was an all boys residential school. And I got picked on two big dudes, grade 5, and I was in grade 3, and I was 1 year younger than all the other grade 3s. Almost 2 years technically, but like I was born right on the cusp of September, so they put me in a grade early. So I was 3 years old when I came into grade 1, almost 4.
Wow.
And then grade 2 was 4, almost 5. Grade 3, I would have been 5, almost 6 years old, but I was 5 years old. And I was cold training. I didn't even wear fucking winter coats on or anything, which saved my ass because I moved a lot faster because of that. And these two dudes came up to me, two big brothers, two starting quarterbacks. They look like giants in my mind still because I remembered it. Like I couldn't even reach up to their face to punch them because I wasn't tall enough. So I pretended to slap. I pretended in my mind, I'm like, I'm fucked, but I got to make up a martial arts move. So I pretended to slap the first one with my right hand in the face, and I had to reach way up to pretend. And he just panicked and put his hands up because he didn't want to get humiliated and get slapped by this little kid. So he puts his hand up, that put his stomach open, and I like did a half
Started
jab in the stomach, like a half jab, but
yeah.
like punch hooked in the stomach, you know, like I'm doing an uppercut, but instead of pushing it up, I just pumped it right in, like, and then he folded in half, and then he looked at his brother, looked confused, and I walked up to him and did the same fucking move, and it worked. And put his hands up automatically because he didn't want to get slapped. It's just a reflex.
Yeah.
And then I went, boom. And he folded. No joke. No word of a lie. That's true story. And I was like, no training, no anything. But I was like, I have to do something. And after that, nobody at that school ever fucked with me again.
Nice. I gotta go.
Oh, yeah. No problem.
Respects. Oh, I love it when it's just pulling anyone. Anyone who wants to come in, feel free. I
Yeah,
love
please.
hearing your
Everybody wants
perspectives.
to pop
But
up,
Kalki's
please.
got plenty to say, guys.
Number of the prophets. No, none of the prophets is red, brown, black, yellow. Yeah, facts. B10 diet, good facts, because that's the facts. When they look in the Bible, they're all whitewashed, you know. And since when? You think in the Middle East they have names like John and Matthew and Luke and Mark and Jesus? No, those are all like whitewashed name, whitewashed pictures, whitewashed stories. They never talk about the women. They don't talk about Esther, Ruth, Judith, any of the prophetesses, Cassandra, the oracles, Sophia. All this shit's hidden from us. You know, it's ridiculous.
The rape of what's her name of in the Bible. It's one of the first stories. They occult it from you in Hebrew school. Like they gloss over
Yeah,
it.
facts.
They just straight up don't talk about it. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's one of the more important stories in the Bible. That tells you why, like, why we defend women, why we, like, obviously there are principles from other in indigenous, etc. But why we as Judeo-Christian or Judeo-Christian Muslim even protect
Yeah,
women. But there's a different perspective in every culture, in every religion, in every sect, in every part. So I can't speak for anyone. I can only speak for myself.
facts. Yo, peace to everyone who came in. If you want to hop into the conversation, let's hop in. Otherwise, I was thinking about closing it soon because I'm like, I want to make sure this saves. I want to make sure this doesn't get randomly shut off with the amount of stuff we've said that's like challenging like mainstream notions right now. It's insane that this is even still live and going on and that we have that many people come through. Thank you to everyone who's watching, who's going to watch, who's going to check this out, who already did. Thank you to everyone who came through. If anyone wants to hop in, please. Otherwise, I think I'm going to shut this down just because I want to save this. I want to make sure it actually saves. And we got to this point, we didn't get censored. So I'm like, yes, because we lost 6 lives out of like the last 10 that we did. So yeah.
Beautiful. All right, Kalki. It's been a pleasure to be on, and always, anytime that anyone wants to hit me up for DMs or hit Kalki up for DMs for voice chat or stuff, like we're
Yo,
here.
respect.
That's what we're here for.
Always a pleasure. Yo, peace.
Pleasure, all y'all. Take care.